Basically, this problem is asking us to find the product of all the elements in an array except the element at the current index itself. So to kind of understand what that means, if we're given this array 1, 2, 3, 4 in our output, so for example in index 0, which contains 1, our product should be all the elements without 1 being part of the product answer. So for index 0, our product should be 2 times 3 times 4, which is 24. For index 1, our product should be 1 times 3 times 4, which is 12. For index 2, our product should be 1 times 2 times 4, which is 8, and so on. So basically, we want to find a new array where each element at index I is the product of all the other elements except the one at index I. And initially, we might think of an obvious solution, which is just finding the total product of the entire array and then dividing it by each element. But unfortunately, because Leetcode hates us, they do tell us that we cannot use division in our solution. Is having two separate arrays, prefix and postfix, and what each array is going to do is the prefix array will keep track of the total product of all the elements before the current index. So if our current index was 5, I would keep the product before 5, which would be 6. If I was on index 1, then I would keep the total product of everything before 1, which is 30. And I'm going to do the same thing for the postfix array. Let's say my current index was 2, everything after 2 is 15. So I'm kind of doing this workaround of storing everything before my current index and storing everything after my current index, so I can kind of not include the current index in the product. And then my answer essentially would just be multiplying the prefix and the postfix value for the answer. Index of our prefix array is always going to be 1 because there is nothing that exists before the first index. But if I were to replace the 1 with a 0, then it's going to be a problem when I start multiplying my prefix and my postfix array for the answer, because anything multiplied with a 0 equals 0. Similarly, I'm going to initialize the very last index of my postfix array to 1. Same concept. There is nothing that exists after the last element in my original array, so I need to make sure that I just initialize that to 1. That way we guarantee that none of the product value is unchanged, and we avoid edge cases. Array, we start at index 1, which is 3, and the only thing before that is 2, index 2. And everything before 5 is 1 times 2 times 3, which is 6. And then we move to the last element of the array. Same thing, repeat it, everything before it, and we get the total product of 30. Repeat the same process for the postfix array, and it'll look something like this. Be done. Take a minute to kind of sink in this image. And at the end, the answer, would just be the prefix times the postfix. So that would be 1 times 15, which would give us 15, 2 times 5, which is 10, 6 times 1, which is 6, and then 30 times 1, which is 30. And that is basically our output array. I'll make some comments of what I need to do here. I need to initialize a prefix and postfix array. I need to return an output array, which means I should probably initialize that too. And then I need to populate my prefix array and populate my postfix array. So let's start off with initializations of 3 arrays. So I'm just going to define a variable to make life easier. So this is going to be called a bunch. So we have our prefix. And then I'm just going to define answer. So we have our arrays initialized. Now we have to populate our prefix array, and like we talked about before, the first index will be 1. Loop through the nums array. And we want to set prefix of I to everything before the current index. And I want to do the same thing for my postfix array, but this time it is going to be the last index set to 1. Oops. So I want to start iterating 2 away from the last index. And I want to find the product of everything after the current index. And now I want to return the output array, so this is just going to be another simple for loop where we populate answer of I with prefix and postfix multiplied together. And now I can just return it, and hopefully this will work. And there you have it. But as we notice here, we have 2 separate arrays, a prefix and a postfix array, calculating the product before and the product after. Can we optimize this solution and make the prefix and postfix calculation into one array? Calculated and initialize it to 1. And I am going to multiply it by the prefixes that are prefix products that are already in my array. So right now I'm going to do 1 times 6. That's my postfix with my prefix, and that's just going to be 6. And then I'm going to update my postfix value based on the nums array. So since I'm at the same index as my output array, now this is going to be 4. And I'm going to repeat that process. Do 4 times 2, so this is going to be 8, my postfix value multiplied by my prefix value. And then I'm also going to update my pointer here, and now I have 12. So now my postfix value is 12, and I'm going to do 12 times 1, and now I have 12. Update that value accordingly. Now it's 24, and now when I go here, I'm working with 24, and my pointer is here. And that way, basically what I'm doing, how we can modify this solution. I don't need the prefix or postfix array anymore. I don't need to do any of this anymore. I'm going to populate the prefix array like I would, like usual, but it's going to be an in-place solution. So it's going to be the prefixes products are going to be filled in my output array itself. And now here comes the trickier part where I need to multiply the postfix values with the prefix values in the answer array, right? And to do this, I'm going to introduce a variable called suffix calculated, or we can call it postfix calculated, probably makes more sense. I'm gonna initialize it to 1. Basically what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna traverse from the end like I would calculate my postfix array. And in here, I am going to calculate what goes in my answer array. So that's gonna look like this. I want to multiply what's in my nums array with my postfix calculated. Why is it doing that? Calculated value. Then I want to update my postfix calculated value with the product, so I'm going to do it like so. That should work, hopefully. Oh no, why didn't it work? Let's see. So in our output, we could see that index 1 is 24. Where am I going wrong in this? Oh, see, the bug that I got is I'm calculating with the nums, but I want to do it with the prefixes. So this should actually be answer. And there we are.